Assalamu Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Right, it does sound like it's was it day 3 or day 4 today? Day 3. Day 3?
Day 3, yeah.
MashaAllah, how's everyone feeling?
First day there was no learning.
Good? Alhamdulillah, today we've got a really packed day, but before we get into today's content, we're just going to review yesterday's session. So yesterday we were speaking about looking after new Muslims, new Muslim mentorship. So who can remember some of the main points that we covered? No one can remember anything. Alright, let me help you guys out, right? I'm going to ask you questions to maybe jog your memory, inshallah. Bismillah. So, the first question. Why is it so important to develop new Muslims?
To keep them strong in the deen.
Yep.
To keep them strong in the deen.
Okay, why is that important?
So that they don't go to the fire of Jahannam.
Okay, so to keep them firm upon the deen. Very textbook sort of answer.
Yeah.
And it's important. But put it into the context of, the reality why we're here for these 10 days. We're here to learn how to give dawah in a more effective way, to make it intelligent, compassionate case for Islam to the wider audience, to the world. So why is it, from that context, why is it important that we should develop new Muslims? Yes, brother.
If we truly want the reward for the acts of new Muslim, then we should develop them or teach them in order for them to get onto the straight path where they would start practicing it and praying and bring about family.
Brilliant. So yes, absolutely. So if you want them to, so what is the reward like you're talking about specifically?
The Quranic reward, the hadith, like for guiding the Muslim to Islam.
Yes, which is?
It's the Humur al-Nam, the red camp, or the other hadith is paradise.
Paradise. Okay. Anyone have anything different? That was good, mashallah. Yes, brother.
So let them go to a specific level of knowledge and they can continue on the dawah after such like a chain reaction, I think.
Okay, so arm them with the knowledge so then they can continue doing the work, inshallah. Yes, brother.
And whatever amal they do in terms of ibadat or sadaqat or charities, then you also get the reward as well. So
yes,
the amal that they do, the Quran, the adhkar, the salawat, all that will come to your account as well, because you're the one actually taught them, became the means of them learning this.
Absolutely. So we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that's mentioned in Sahih Muslim that if you call someone to good and they act upon that good, you will get the reward of that good without the reward being diminished for that person. So when you're going out there and you're giving dawah and you're calling people to Islam, and we've gone through a methodology, the GORAP methodology. It's a very simple methodology that goes through the fundamentals of the deen, and if someone accepts and wants to become a Muslim, one of the rewards is that every action of ibadah or good that they do, you will get the reward in that. But also with looking after new Muslims, it's important because one of the challenges that they face, and I'm going to be speaking about this as one of the later questions, is that they have a problem when it comes to remaining upon the deen. We see this all the time, right? So yes, it's important. Developing new Muslims is part of our tradition, right? And we spoke about, we take our understanding from the pious predecessors. We look at the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They were all new Muslims, right? And they're the giants that we look towards, right? They are going to get all those rewards that we're speaking about. So we want to have a share in those rewards in terms of the people that are out there that are not yet Muslim. And when they do accept Islam, it's important that we develop them in order to also maintain our tradition as well. Because the future generations, we need to make sure that the tradition and the belief is a continuation, right? So it's important that we do that. So the second question is, what are the common challenges that are faced by new Muslims? Someone else? Yes, brother.
So there's those 12 that we discussed. Monks, which are abandonment by family,
right?
Loneliness, financial issues, housing issues, indebtedness, loss of job, A lot of times they go through moments of identity crises. So those are some of the...
Okay, so maybe expand upon maybe the first one that you spoke about.
So abandonment by family is where, and not everybody experiences this obviously, but a lot of times their family might be surprised, shocked, and their reactions vary in the degrees of severity. So some families kind of question, they say, I'm not happy, but you know, they'll keep them around. Some families will, you know, kick their child out if the child is living with their parents. Some will abandon them completely, say, you're not my child, I don't know you. Some might become even violent with them.
Right.
We had a case where there was a father, he pulled a shotgun on his daughter.
No way.
Yeah, he said, if I see you wear that thing, she was putting on the hijab. So she doesn't wear, to this day, she's been Muslim almost for 10 years, she doesn't wear hijab around her father. Which, I mean, he's her father, she doesn't have to wear it.
That's
but
true.
if they're out in public together, she still won't wear it.
Wow, wow. So this is a reality. You know, when people accept Islam, there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to Islam by people that are not Muslim, and family obviously is the dearest thing to people, and sometimes what happens is that they don't accept, you know, their family member becoming a Muslim and accepting them as a person who is a Muslim, right? So we see this all the time. I gave the example of the Sikh brother, right? He accepted Islam and he wanted to start practicing Islam, and what he did, he had a dual identity. At home, he would be a Sikh outwardly, but then when he would go to pray to the masjid, he had a car which was blacked out windows. He would go and change in the car, in the masjid car park, then go into the masjid, pray, come back out, get changed, and go back home and sleep. So his family wouldn't know. Why would he do that? Because his family wouldn't accept him, and maybe there'll be repercussions for other family members, maybe his children, right? This is a reality, and you know, I speak about this in the Dawah training course. That a lot of born Muslims, they're completely unaware of this challenge that new Muslims face. And if you're going to be going out there and calling people to Islam and trying to make sure that, you know, they take that step where they take the Shahada, that you understand the reality, the challenges that they face. And we use the example of, you know, imagine for some reason you were speaking to a Christian and he gave you a compelling argument, and for some reason you decided to become a Christian. How many here of you guys would be able to go home and tell your parents that you've become a Christian? Put your hand up. Difficult, right? Of course. Why? Because what are they going to say? How could you become a Christian? You're an enemy. You're a person who's disobeyed our traditions. You know, get out of the house. It becomes very emotional. So we need to understand that as da'is, as well, the realities out there when it comes to some of the common challenges that new Muslims face. Also, one of the big challenges that new Muslims face is that new Muslims, when they come to the deen, a lot of new Muslims, they leave Islam as quickly as they enter. Who remembers the statistic that we put up on the board yesterday?
50%.
Yeah, 40 to 50%. That means half the new Muslims are leaving Islam. Right? Why is this the case? Why is this the case?
There's no follow-up, there's
No follow-up.
Yeah.
What do you mean by follow-up?
Follow-up meaning reaching out to them, developing them, you know, helping them along, empowering them. A lot of people just get the shahada and then
Right.
they never see them again.
Yes. So, you know, we spoke about when we speak about the shahada, the first part is when we're speaking to new Muslims is to review their understanding of what it means to be a Muslim. And we spoke about the shahada. What did we say about the shahada? Yes, brother.
It's just like the start of the whole journey. It's the start of the journey of new Muslim support, basically.
Okay, but for the new Muslim, what does the shahada mean? Yes, brother.
It's like a covenant between them and Allah Ta'ala, and them taking the Prophet as his role model.
Absolutely, right? So what we said, it's not an empty statement, right? And we spoke briefly about, like, there's certain conditions that the pious predecessors and the scholars have said. When someone accepts becoming a Muslim, that when they take that testimony of faith, there are conditions to that statement, right? And they need to understand that. And as da'is, sometimes what we've seen on the dawah tables is that hasn't been communicated clearly. And we had that whole discussion of, well, is it better for them just to take their shahada, or should we clarify things first? Because a lot of the times people say this, the shahada, but because it hasn't been explained to them the implications of what it means now, it means that you need to start living a life that's pleasing to Allah. And it means you may have to make changes in your lifestyle, in the way that you do certain things. And obviously that change takes time. But because that hasn't been explained and communicated to them, then when you do try and approach them over these matters, they're, well, like, you know, no one really told me that, right? Also, when it comes to new Muslims, sometimes there's an identity crisis. Why would there be an identity crisis when it comes to new Muslims? Specifically when it comes to challenges. Yes?
I think it's because, for example, as the situation you mentioned earlier, from the dual identity of that Sikh brother, was that they want to portray themselves as a Muslim, they want to outwardly and inwardly, but they are not be able to because due to the family maybe.
Okay, family, friends.
Family, friends.
What else? Yes?
Many new Muslims go through that cycle of Arabizing themselves,
Right.
whatever you want to call it, and then they realize that no, okay, I can be American Muslim.
Right.
So the concept of identify as a Muslim,
Yes.
that I don't think is communicated when cultural Muslims project their culture as the religion.
Right. So this is very common, right? People think that, you know, when you become a Muslim, now you may have to become a Pakistani now, right? Or you may have to become like an Arab. You have to adopt an Arab name. We spoke about new Muslims. Do they need to change their name?
Yeah.
And what did we say about that? Who remembers?
No, they don't.
They don't, right? But why does this exist in our sort of community?
It's misconception.
It's a misconception, blurred lines between culture and religion.
Right, yes.
Reverse
Yes.
colonization.
Colonization.
Where did you learn that from? Reverse colonization, yes. So it's important because look, at the end of the day, as da'is, we want to go out there and convey the message to humanity. We spoke about, you know, the people that are not yet Muslim, right? They are brothers and sisters in humanity. And obviously, the reason we do this is we want best for them, right? And we do this because it's commanded to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it was the tradition of the pious predecessors. But we need to make it as easy as possible, right? What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say about the deen? Yes, it's, you know, supposed to make it easy for the people. Don't put barriers, don't put cultural barriers that are not part of our tradition, right? So when it comes to identity crisis, we need to make sure that, look, when you take this testimony of faith, you're still the same person, right? And the reason you're, you know, taking this step is because you understand that, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, is the sustainer. All of your blessings are due to Allah, and now you want to live a life that's pleasing to Allah. But you're still that same person. You're not a different person, right? So it's important that as da'is we communicate that, and it's clear. Also, when it comes to the reality of new Muslims, what is the other reasons why, you know, they may not remain upon Islam? Yes.
They have bad experience with a practicing Muslim after they've, for example, a culture clash.
Okay.
If they experience racism maybe, or...
Yes, so yeah, racism, you know, this exists, unfortunately, within communities. So these are the things that we need to sort of challenge and make sure that we communicate and we fix, right? And make sure we follow upon the tradition of the pious predecessors. We gave the example of the ayat from the Quran. Who can remember the story from the Quran that we spoke about yesterday when it came to the methodology of, you know, understanding how we should treat each other as brothers and sisters in the deen? Yes, Brother Murtada.
The Sahaba that had the meal,
Yes.
and he basically dimmed the lights and pretended to eat his food himself, but gave the only food that he had to the other person, the guest party. So he shared everything he had basically.
Right. So what does that teach us?
We've got to give it the all, basically, to the new Muslims. We've got to be like their close family mentor, assistant, guide, etc. So we've got to-
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Yesterday I referred to an example of a new baby coming,
Yes.
and I think that example is extremely accurate because of this verse. The verse begins, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ.
Right.
So tabawwa' ad-dar means to prepare a home.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happens 3 months, 2 months before a baby comes. You paint the room, you get the crib, you get all these things ready for that baby to come in.
SubhanAllah.
Right? So that verse begins with preparing a house. وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ يُحِبُّونَ, and it continues like,
SubhanAllah.
so wallahu alam.
So that's a good tadabbar on, on that, and that's a good analogy. Did everyone get that? That, when a baby is about to come into a household, before the baby is born, that the preparations are being made before they've entered into the world, right? And that's what we're trying to do with this course, is we understand that there is a big problem when it comes to new Muslims. A lot of people out there doing dawah, I'm going to come to you. A lot of dawah that's happening, but when it comes to new Muslim support, this is something that is missing. And hopefully, with this course and with the rest of the week, and what we're trying to do is to give a good balance. Use the methodology of calling people to Islam, but also provide the support structures that are in place for the new Muslims. Yes, brother.
I think, I don't know if you guys covered this yesterday, but I think a really important aspect of this is following the Sunnah. So the Sunnah is like when the Prophet Muhammad when he sent Mu'adh bin Jabal and Ali bin Abi Talib to Yemen,
Yes.
and he told them to call people to Islam.
Yes.
And if they accept La ilaha illallah, the second thing you should immediately tell them is about the 5 prayers.
Yes.
So I think if some people have a reluctance to tell people to pray 5 times a day because they feel this is just a burden upon them and they need to have more time to to settle in. But I think that's a weak approach, because first of all it goes against the Sunnah. Secondly, the salah is a silah, is a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if that person is not there, so you're preparing that person to connect themselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day. So
but the reality, I appreciate the perspective, but the reality is there may be, ahwanul bali'ain, like which one, the worst of the 2 evils. And I think every situation is unique.
Yes.
But my question is, where is the red line when it comes to, and this is important, the red line discussion is, and of course it will fluctuate with every person, but where is the red line where how much ahkam do you tell that person from the fara'id? Yeah. Now, for you in this example, the red line was 5 prayers.
Yeah.
For Abdullah in the back of the room, the red line might be, it's Ramadan right now, you just became Muslim, now start fasting all day, right? And you just became Muslim yesterday. How many shahadas we get in Ramadan, right? And this person never ever fasted in his life, and now you're throwing him into the deep end, go swim. Like ahwanul bali'ain, it's what's the lesser of the 2 evils? There's kufr and there's itham. There's kufr and itham. So keep in mind, like if you fear with a strong implication that this person may be on the edge and just going to leave, now okay, you've preserved the deen. I gave him the deen as it is, but he's left the deen now. Where it could have been, as the baby example is, the mother chews up the food and feeds it to the baby, so eventually the baby eats on their own. Right? You don't just give a baby a steak. The baby's stomach can't take it yet.
Yes.
So it's just slowly getting that person to that stage. It's not easy. I'm not saying this is a case closed thing where you just hide all the ahkam and stuff like that. But
goes back to خاطب الناس على قدر عقولهم. Tell people according to the level of
subhanallah sabta طبعا, that's the best.
Alhamdulillah.
Speak to people according to their level.
The thing is, this is what I used to think as well, but there was one woman who became Muslim, and I had, when I was very young, I was doing da'wah, like 16, 17, and I was doing da'wah, and I thought, let me just leave her for a bit before I tell her of the obligation of the 5 prayers, because she was an old woman and she was actually disabled. So I figured, she might just get put off completely. So I came back and she didn't have a silah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She was just going back to her daily habits that she was doing.
Okay.
As a result of that, she was on the verge of leaving Islam.
Okay.
I think when you connect them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether you're there or not, the sila is the salah. That's why the Prophet Muhammad said, whether we interpret it as meaning that tarika salah is kafir or not. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying that the difference between the Muslim and the non-Muslim is salah.
Yeah.
You know. So the idea is, I think that you're right with. That's why there's a hikmah in the prophetic methodology where he said that if they accept the shahada, then go to the next step. And if they accept that, then go to the so we don't move on until they've perfected the last thing. You see what I'm saying? So if you see that, okay, you're their tutor now, you're their mentor, you say, okay, you know what, they're praying 5 times a day and they've got zeal, give them the zakah now, tell them about the obligation of zakah. If they're doing that, give them the next thing. If they're not doing it, if they're still doing like 3 prayers and like
you gotta work up to that.
Then you can't tell them about zakah yet.
Right, so that's good,
It's
right?
progressive.
It's progressive. So we spoke about this yesterday. It's part of our methodology that we have when it comes to teaching, right? So you got to use hikmah, right? You got to use wisdom. You got to use your experience. But at the end of the day, what we said is that we need to communicate what it means to be a Muslim. When we say that someone accepts shahada, that they understand what that means, right? It's not an empty statement. But obviously everyone is different, and that's why this course is so vital. It's so important, because at the end of the day, all of us should be new Muslim mentors, right? We spoke about this yesterday. Every one of us as da'is should have contact with new Muslims, and every case is going to be different. But we're working up towards that, right? But absolutely, we need to mention these things. So, we mentioned 3 main areas when it comes to looking after new Muslims. There's a welcoming phase, there's a teaching phase, and then there's a mentoring phase. And we went through a few case studies, right? So, what are the key stages in the welcoming phase? Who remembers?
Give them a call. Initial call.
Put your hand up. Yes.
Initial call.
Give them an initial call, right? So, what do you mean by that?
So you give them a call, you ask them, you confirm that they're taking the shahada.
Right.
You welcome them, and then you arrange a meeting, right?
Okay.
To go and see them for the first meeting.
So, what's the purpose of that first call?
To reestablish.
Yes, brother.
Building a relation.
Exactly, that's the point, right? The point is, when you're dealing with new Muslims and you're going to be a mentor, the first thing you want to establish is a relationship. And the first step in that is the welcoming phase. So, when it comes to the welcoming phase, it's essential that we exchange contact details with the new Muslim, and it's important that we make this first call, right? And how soon should we make this call?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, yeah?
4 hours first.
24 hours? Yes, absolutely. Because what usually happens is when someone accepts Islam, and if no one's, there to sort of support them or to teach them basic things and welcome them, then they usually go back to, like you said, their ways, right? Yeah. That's why mentoring is so important. It's a neglected part of the dawah. Okay, good. So, welcoming phase. What's important about the welcoming phase in terms of the telephone call? What was the key aspect of that telephone call, apart from building the relationship? What are you trying to achieve? I'm going to try and get someone else in here. We'll start picking on people, yeah?
It's in the book.
It's in the book, yeah? Zishan. Arrange a meeting, yes. Why is this meeting so important?
I think it'll help you to kind of further develop your relationship.
Yes.
Face to face, and then interact and all that.
Absolutely. So what were the 3 main areas that you wanted to cover in that aspect of the first meeting? Do you remember?
Can read it. Okay. Shahada review.
Shahada review. So why is this important?
Kind of ask the basis of what they're going to develop further on, so it should kind of be stronger than foundation.
Good. So what do we mean by Shahada review? Someone else? What about Brother Asif? I know you weren't there yesterday. When we get some of your input, inshallah.
I'm assuming that a Shahada review would consist of just having the correct understanding. Maybe when they initially said the Shahada, it was a bit of a shock or something, and then there was some kind of misunderstanding. Just to kind of make sure that they're still Muslim. Maybe they've got second thoughts about it.
Okay, good. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Exactly, you know, to make sure that they understand, you want to further develop that relationship. So, you know, one of the things that we teach when it comes to this meeting is sometimes it's good to meet people in a neutral area, right? Some people say, okay, let's take them straight to the masjid. But the problem with that is a lot of non-Muslims and new Muslims have never been to a masjid. And it may be overwhelming, you know, just to take them there straight away. But you want to try and get them as soon as possible there, so you can start developing a relationship with the local masjid, with the local brothers and sisters there. You help their development. But the initial meeting, maybe meet them in a coffee shop, which is near the masjid, right? Or a place where you can meet them to eat their favorite place in terms of food and stuff. Yes, brother.
Something that we didn't mention yesterday, which I find is like one of the advices I give right after Shahada.
Yes.
And I just wanted to get other people's opinion, is I tell them don't listen to anyone. Because you'll be overburdened with information.
Yes.
And they'll run away. So I was wondering if we can add.
Especially if they're an elder uncle.
Yeah, so especially there's 18 rakats for Isha, right?
Subhanallah.
Yeah, we all know that, right? 18 rakats of Isha. Crazy. Yeah, so the point I'm saying is that I tell them, first of all, go slow as possible.
Yep.
Go as slow as possible.
Good.
Don't listen to anyone.
Brilliant.
Choose one teacher.
Yes.
And if I know I'm going to be with them, I say, I got you. But don't listen to anyone else. Because, and then I felt like this needs to be masjid training, because I think our communities don't realize they do more harm than good, because each one of them wants to tell them how to do wudu and how to do this and how to do that. So one of the first things I tell them is don't listen to anyone, don't go online, and forget Facebook. Like, completely ignore these things, because what's going to happen is it creates more doubts than yaqeen.
Yes.
Right? It creates more doubts than yaqeen. So I just felt like that was one of the early things that I told them, is to just
Brilliant.
choose one teacher and stick to that.
Alhamdulillah. And that's the point of the mentor, right? The mentor is supposed to be that person, to develop that relationship, that they take their teaching from that one person, so they don't get confused. Yes, brother, you just want to quickly add something.
Right, so I was trying to mention that yesterday. So I think this is great, right? So I think the mentor needs to be aware of the challenges that are going to be there.
Yes.
So I tried that, but in reality what happens is that they don't come off social media and they don't come off these things. The two things I would like to quickly add here is, one is to, create that awareness that yes, people will reach out to you and they will try to say do this and do that. But remember to tell them, hey, you know what, I got a mentor, I'm working on it step by step.
Good.
And from the community, I tell them, hey, if you see somebody, connect them to us, or ask them, hey, do you have a mentor? Are you working on with somebody, and things like that. The second thing, which I think is very, very important, is there's always a risk, and it's a very, very high risk, especially in Canada. I mean, you guys may have a good distribution here, I don't know, that you may not have that second call, you may not have that second meeting. And it starts with that first call, right? So a lot of people in my team, what happens is, I called, he didn't pick up. All right, I mean, this is not how you do sales, right? Follow up, day or two, send a text message, try to find out a good time to call. And likewise, when you are in that meeting, there's a very chance people come in, they're very excited, yeah, I'm gonna do this, that, and then they don't show up, right? Because, things happen, and obviously shaitan is there, there's a lack of commitment sometimes. So what I try to do is actually, in reality, I tell them, look, the way it is that when you're out there, everybody's calling you to their own product, right? People are trying to sell you iPhones, people are trying to sell you Android, everything, right? So you need to take care of your own self and have that responsibility, is that surround yourself with something that will remind you of Allah. So for me, I think, downloading an app like Muslim Pro helps, but I know there's a guy who said, I don't come, but I see the ayats on Muslim Pro.
What's Muslim Pro?
It's an app
it has a lot of other stuff too, though.
So it gives you the prayer time, but most importantly, it gives you, some of the Muslims, they actually log their prayers too, at a later stage. But it also gives you a random verse every day.
MashaAllah.
It sometimes it reminds you, hey, pray or something like that. And another thing I try to do is that depending on the person, obviously you're not moving at the prayer stage because the shahada is not there completely. Right? So you can think of a few channels that they can subscribe to.
Yeah.
Things like, Deen Show,
even iERA,
Most-
depending on the person.
Even.
So to add to that, even iERA. So to add to that, what
Yes.
I normally do is I find a sheikh who's from the same demographic
Yes.
of that person.
Right.
If it's a white person, I'm giving him Hamza Yusuf or someone else.
Right.
Like I'm not giving him someone from a different culture, so he feels like I have to be decolonized.
Good.
So I find Timothy Winter, Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, I find Hamza Yusuf if he's a white dude. If he's a black dude, I'm giving him someone else.
Right.
Because they're all haq inshallah, right? But he's talking to them in likulli qawmin had.
Yes.
Ma arsalna min rasulin illa bilisani qawmihi.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna give him some Desi dude,
Yeah.
and he's a new a white American. I
Brilliant.
find someone from that and from that specific thing, because most of us came on the haq, or we started to practice from lectures. Almost all of us, the lectures kind of got us going.
Right.
Same thing for these guys. They need the lectures. They need just to be inundated with some positive things.
Brilliant.
I
Yes.
wanted to say that one time there was a convert, young convert, maybe like 17 years old in Regent's Park area. Yeah.
Can you speak up?
Oh, okay. So some young white convert became Muslim in Regent's Park area. Yeah?
Yes.
I was there, alhamdulillah, I gave him the shahada and stuff. Me and another brother. And then there was another guy that was there as well, who's a Hizb al-Tahrir, yeah? So anyways, we thought, well, khalas, we don't care. Like when we go to Speaker's School now, literally everyone from all the kind of sects go there, and we can't afford to fight with each other or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? So I thought, okay, we're all going to be like down al-birri wa taqwa, like we're all going to be going in the same direction. So I said, let's go together, even with the brother, the Hizb al-Tahrir guy, let's go to Costa Cafe.
Right.
Because I can't be there for this guy all the time. Yeah?
Right.
I said, all right. So I started talking about Tawheed, talking about, you know, these things. I said, brother, give me a second. I need to go and do a mission and come back. Yeah? So I left them together. I went out, yeah, it was a mission, like a trip,
An
like
errand.
a chore, like an errand, yeah, because I can't be there for the guy for, you know, for 3-4 hours. So I went and did something, and I came back, and I saw them came back, and I said, what are you guys talking about? And he's talking about Khilafah. He's talking about, literally, he's talking about the Hukam Arab. He's talking about the Arab leaders. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. And the young man, he doesn't care about, like, he's now, so what? And then literally, this is what happened. This guy, because I continued following up with him, he developed an anxiety disorder, yeah? A proper OCD anxiety disorder. So every time, for example, this is seriously what he would do. He'd go into a shop, yeah? And then he would think, oh, is this item from Israel? Am I kafir now? Because I'm doing what do you call it? Wala with the kuffar. This is serious. And he goes, should I do the shahada again? And every day he'd do the shahada 10 times. Because he would think, this guy made him think that, okay, if you're connected to, you get me? If you're connected to them in any way, then you're a disbeliever.
Right. So that's why it's so important. You know, this course, a lot of these things that the brother spoke about, you know, the masajid, the uncles, they're completely unaware, trying to impose the culture on the new Muslim. This is detrimental to new Muslims. Also, when it comes to mentorship, assigning a person, and that person is responsible for that person, right? And telling them that message that you said, ignore everyone else, yeah? I'm going to teach you how to connect to Allah, how to learn the basics. These are key components of being a new Muslim mentor. And that's why it's so important that this gets out there. As you as facilitators, inshallah, you know, you're going to be doing that in your communities, inshallah. So, very quickly, we're going to go to break soon. So, what are the keys? Let me just add it at the end, right? What are the key stages in the teaching phase?
Pray easy.
Pray easy, pray with ease. Yes, yes, yes. Why is that so important? I mean, it's obvious, but yes, we need to articulate. Yes.
So it focuses on the inner dimensions, right? And then meaning and understanding while going step by step.
Yes. One of the things we spoke about is when it comes to teaching someone the basics, the fundamentals, one of the first things we want to teach them is, look, being a Muslim is all about what? Connecting yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The salah is not a ritualistic action. It's not about actions. We've lost the tradition of what the salah means, which is the inner dimensions, which is the connection with Allah. If you develop that into a person who is a new Muslim or someone who starts practicing, when it comes to the salah, they have the correct understanding. It's not something that, okay, I need to just fulfill my obligation and just say these words and do these actions. No, it's your time to connect with Allah, to add the spiritual aspect which is missing. Most people, when they teach the salah to a person, a new Muslim, they just go through the actions. You just follow me, brother, and just get into the line, follow the congregations, and you will learn the actions over time, and then I'll teach you the Arabic over a specific time. And this person has no idea what the salah is, what it means, that you're standing there in front of Allah, you're trying to connect, you know, you want to live a life that's pleasing to Allah by being grateful, by being thankful, by, you know, humbling yourself in front of Allah. All of these actions, the spiritual actions that we need to speak about first before we even get into the ritualistic aspects of our deen. And that's going to build a stronger Muslim. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ did with the pious predecessors. He built their iman first, right? Built them, and then when it came to the actions, it was easy, right? They did it because you're obeying Allah. So that's important. So we have that methodology, pray with ease. We've broken it down. It's in your folders. We're going to develop a video, right, Abu Taib?
Yeah.
Inshallah. So we'll make it available online, a whole resource kit, because, you know, this is a very rewardable action. What usually people do is, look, here's a prayer booklet, here's a video, go and watch that, and then leave people to their own devices. We shouldn't be like that. We ourselves should take the responsibility to teach new Muslims how to pray, right? And the final stage is, what are the key stages in mentoring? Before we get into that, what is mentoring? What do we mean by mentoring?
It's a process of building a person up,
right,
to empower them so they go on their own.
Brilliant. I like that. Building someone up so they go on. And why is this important when it comes to new Muslims?
So that they become mentors of other people.
Okay, but maybe they become mentors, but why is it important for a new Muslim?
Just so they can feel comfortable with their deen.
What was that word?
Mollycoddle.
Mollycoddle. What does that mean?
They know.
They know.
Americans know.
Right, it's all about, you know, we want to build people, new Muslims, that are going to be able to become strong, you know, contributing members of the Muslim community. We don't want to do everything for them. Yes, brother?
Can I just add, it was interesting before when we were talking about the new Muslim like the baby.
Yes.
But I think a lot of the times the problem is we continue to see them like the baby.
Yeah.
Right.
The point is the baby does sooner or later learn how to crawl.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sooner or later learns how to walk and run.
Right.
And stand on their own 2 feet.
Absolutely.
Which is a point where we need to start going, stand on your own 2 feet now.
Mashallah.
Yeah, and that's the mentoring side of things, and that's empowerment. That's how you empower the new Muslim to do that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we see in the Muslim community when it comes to new Muslims is, obviously new Muslims, they face challenges and they're learning new things, and they need certain things that they need clarified, or certain decisions that they need to make. And one of the problems we have is that we give them the solutions, right? And when we give them the solutions, we give them the advice, what happens is this is actually detrimental to their deen. We gave the example of, you know, one of the case studies, which was, you know, a new Muslim. He's been practicing, but he's been hiding it from his parents for a certain amount of time. But now he feels, you know, he doesn't want to lie to his parents, and he's feeling down. So he's thinking, look, should I tell my parents now? So as a new Muslim mentor, he's come and asked you that question. And what did we say about that particular case study?
You want to help him through the problem.
Right.
You don't want to make the decision for yourself.
Right.
You want him to make a decision, place all the options before him.
Yes.
It's just like if you have a teenage son, you don't just make decisions for him. You want him to grow up to be a man. So
Yes.
you say, son, you're going to have to make this hard decision, but let's look at your options.
Absolutely. And that's the point. In order to build people, and like when you know, for those of you who have families and have children, you don't want to do everything for your kid. In order to develop them and become strong and independent, you give them the tools, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they have to make the decisions because they're in the best position to make that decision. You're not in the position to understand the situation they have at home or in their environment. So that's why it's important. So what are the 3 stages for the mentoring aspect? Who remembers as a mentor? If a new Muslim comes to you with a question or a challenge or just wants to have a conversation, what are the 3 main steps? Yes, brother?
Active listening.
Yes.
Yeah. Empathy and trust.
Right.
And empowerment.
And empowerment, right?
Brother Salahuddin,
Yes.
Brother Muhammad, he had a point about the salah.
Yes.
It just dawned on me at the end of Surah Fath, or the end of Surah Muhammad, that فَاسْتَغْلَظَ فَاسْتَوَى عَلَى سُوقِهِ, like it talks about a sprout coming up.
Yes.
And how the kuffar a'jaba, he gets happy when he sees that, not the kuffar of the farmer.
Right.
He gets happy when he sees that that sprout has come, فَاسْتَغْلَظَ, and it gets strong enough to stand on its own.
SubhanAllah.
But what's interesting, if we look at the day the Prophet ﷺ passed away,
yes,
he looked out of the room and he saw the Sahaba praying in Jama'ah, right? That they had grown up enough to go on, and he smiled, was happy to see them, they had matured,
yes,
and he passed away. It was time to go now.
SubhanAllah.
So the prayer and like completely iqamat as-salah, I don't know if it happens at the beginning or at the end, like when it really gets really good, that this person has iqamat as-salah completely. We see that at the end of the Prophet's.
No, but you know
it's at the beginning and the end.
No,
Okay.
the ayah of that you mentioned, it mentions more than one sifa. So it says, الذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا.
Yep.
So here you have like three different things. The one, that they're tough against the kuffar.
Yeah, that's
Here
fair.
we were talking about, obviously in a certain context or whatever.
Yeah.
Tough against very رحماء بينهم, that they're merciful with each other. تراهم ركعا سجدا, and then
Praying.
you see them pray.
Okay.
سيماهم في وجوههم, and you can see the things in their face, like the marks of prayer or wudu, whatever it may be. Yeah. So here you got four things, and then that's
all prayer too.
That's all what's referring to the plant.
Yeah, no doubt.
The plot,
so
yeah.
like I just see it as the maturity of the mu'min
So I'll tell-
is
I have an answer for you.
complete iqamat as-salah kind of.
Okay, just quickly share it. Yes.
So it begins by describing their prayer.
Yes.
Then at the very end of that sequence of verses, what is it? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ.
Right.
It starts with prayer and ends with prayer.
Same with the
It's as if
Yes.
everything in between is
Begins
It encompasses,
My only
that.
fear is this: we all have family members, well I don't, but most of us, who aren't completely on the deen, but they're still Muslim, right? They're still gonna inshallah enter Jannah. But if you set the standard so high as a da'i, who's mashallah, lihya is there, everything is there.
I don't think that's what's being called for, right? I mean, you have to make a distinction. The brother is just saying that.
Oh no. I mean,
Yeah, so I think we get that it's a gradual progress.
But the impression that can be taken from the person is that I'm supposed to be a wali of Allah, right?
No, I mean, even in reality, they're not gonna listen to you, right? I mean, you can tell them whatever you're gonna tell them, they resist, right? I mean, and that's what I was saying. Like mentoring has a very big important part, that is calling. Like calling never ends, right?
Yeah.
You know, the example of a baby growing up, when he's able to walk and run, there are other people calling him to other things. So that calling.
So it never ends. Yeah, that's like what you need to
So
share.
motivation and inspiration never ends. So you may have to do go rap again. You may have to reset. Mindset. This continues. Like, why do I need to pray? Why do I need to do this?
Yeah, I think what's important is that you build them up so they become independent, right? So they do get all of this, these avenues of information coming, but they're ready to face those challenges. Whereas at the beginning, they may not have those tools, right? And they'll be led this way and led that way. But once you have those tools as a new Muslim, and that's your job as a new Muslim mentor, to do that, right? I don't know do we have time to do a quick case study?
Just kind of very quick.
Who said that? Time's up, yeah? All right.
Very quick.
For the last 20 minutes.
Why don't you take it out in the break?
Okay.
Huh?
Yes, very quickly, brother.
Okay, and very quick misconception in the community is let's get the reverts together. This is like, a one-size-fits-all thing, and some of the reverts hate this, right? You have to see what the reverse mentality is. What does he want to do in life? Some people are like, very ambitious to learn the deen. Some people are like, they want to go and learn the dunya. And some people are like, I'm just going to be on welfare, right? So I don't want to generalize because you guys will hate me like you did yesterday. I have some mistakes, but I don't want to be hated again. So I will be quiet. So I'm just saying. So I'll just say that, just a general thing, okay, get the reverse together. That doesn't work all the time. So, there's no one size fits all. So look at the one you're mentoring and connect them with the right friends.
Yeah.
And it could be anything.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So just to end, I'm going to leave the case study there, but just to recap. Look, when it comes to doing dawah, this is an essential part that is missing. You as da'is that are going to be leading the way, you need to be taking this forward, right? You yourselves do it, becoming mentors, but also the brothers and the sisters that are out there involved in dawah, you need to communicate this to them. That mentorship is a key essential part of being a da'i. If you're not going to be there to help new Muslims, don't bother becoming a da'i, right? Because this is part and parcel of what it means to become a da'i. Hope we've given you a framework. It's in your notes, inshallah. We've gone through a case study, so I think you guys have got it now, mashallah, alhamdulillah. There's a case study, maybe you want to discuss it over the break. Just one more thing before we end, because Sheikh Fahad's here. Just wanted to clarify just one misconception that we had as well. Mashallah, Brother Sohail, he gave me this. What is this? Now, when Sheikh Fahad did his first session, he just slipped it in there. He said, this is a football because it looks like a foot. Yes? I just want to ask someone,
It looks like the prophet size.
whose foot looks like this?
It's the knife.
It looks like a quick. It was meant to be quick.
Yeah.
Edit it out.
It's a penguin's foot.
It's a penguin's foot. Yeah, no, I just wanted to end on a bit of humor. So, alhamdulillah. Hope that was beneficial, inshallah. Go for a break, and inshallah, Hamza's going to take the next section, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.